Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Doble, and today we're going to be breaking down what you need to get started with your real estate photography and video business. Before I get into that, let me just share a little bit about my background and share some credibility. I own a real estate photography and video company. Well, actually, it's a media company. We do more than just real estate, but it's called Doble Visuals, and I've shot I don't even know, countless properties at this point. So I'm coming from a point of experience and I want to share that with you guys so you can start making money with your passion as well. Okay, so what do I recommend if you're on a budget, you're just starting out, what kind of equipment should you buy? For you to start out, I would recommend any Canon camera that has 3 digits in the name. So that would be something like the Canon 750D, or if you're in North America, then anything that has Rebel and ends in I. So the Canon Rebel T6i would be, for example, a totally suitable option. Canon Rebel T3i, T4i, T5i, T7i, all of those are great options to start off with. The camera that I recommend most to start off with though would be the Canon Rebel SL3. This camera shoots 4K and it has dual pixel autofocus, which means you're able to essentially start offering 4K as a package straight off the bat, and you have an autofocus system which you can trust and you're not going to have to really worry about it at all. Just leave it on autofocus and you're good. Now, by the way, I do want to mention all of the links are down below in the description if you want to buy it yourself. They are affiliate links. I do earn a small commission, but the prices do not impact you at all. It's exactly the same price if you bought it through my link versus just searching it up and buying it through the same source on your own. If you do use the links though, it does support me and I would really appreciate that. So the Canon Rebel SL3 is for the body. For the lens, I would recommend the Canon 10 to 18mm STM lens. The reason I recommend that one is because it's wide angle, so you can make small spaces look big and big spaces look bigger. You want that in real estate. And it's got an STM autofocusing system, which means it's super accurate, great for video, great for photo, basically the best you could get. Now, if you're doing photos, you want to make sure that you get a tripod and a sturdy one. I would recommend the Optex Black travel tripod. The link is also down below. I use that even for my crazy setup that I've got going on here. It's durable. It can support the weight of cameras as you upgrade further down the line, but it's also lightweight, which is extremely important if you're doing real estate photography. If you got multiple listings in a day, it gets really annoying to carry around a heavy tripod. So I've resorted to the Optex Black travel tripod because it's nice and light. You just pick it up, you move it to another spot. It's easy to adjust. I love that tripod. And I actually bought that one by accident. I forgot my tripod at home and I was just like, I needed a tripod just like that. So I bought it and I'm so happy with it. I wanted to return it, but then I was like, you know what? This is so much better than my actual tripod. I just kept it. Okay, talking about drones. What drone do I recommend for the basic setup? The DJI Mini 2 is an excellent option if you're just starting out. You can get them used for relatively cheap. They still shoot 4K video. They've got relatively good battery life, and it's under 249 grams, which means you don't need to have a license in a number of countries if you want to fly that drone. Now with that, you're totally good for photography. So if you want to go down the path of creating a photography real estate business, you can even shoot luxury homes or whatever with that setup because you just set it up as exposure bracketing. You put the camera into aperture priority mode, you set the aperture to f8, and you let it shoot underexposed, overexposed, regular exposure, merge them in Lightroom, and the photos are absolutely amazing. If you want me to do a tutorial on that, by the way, let me know down below and I'll show you what the whole workflow is for real estate photography. But with that setup, you should be good for photography. Now, if you want to do video, I would recommend staying in the higher numbers of the Canon Rebel range, something like the Canon Rebel T7i or the SL3, which would be probably the best option. That way you have autofocus in video, or really good autofocus in video, and you also can offer 4K, obviously. I would recommend you invest into a gimbal. For the budget option, I would recommend the DJI Ronin SC2. This is the same gimbal that I use basically from when I began all the way till now. The gimbal has never given up on me. It's always been a trooper, so I totally recommend it even for the budget option. And now the reason I recommend that and not any other cheaper gimbal is because it's important to have steady shots in real estate. You don't want to cheap out on something like that and then every single shot has this weird jerky movement in it. It's better to invest in a quality gimbal than it is to get a cheap one, and then you're going to have to end up buying the quality one after anyways. But if you're just starting out, I'd recommend you just do photos. You don't need to get into video, and you can save up to then get yourself a gimbal and start offering that as an option to your clients, maybe an upgrade, that kind of thing. Now, as a little bonus, I would recommend you get a camera cage. Now here, this is my Sony a7R5. This has a cage on it. It looks a lot better than a camera without a cage. It looks a lot more professional to begin with, but you also have a lot of flexibility for potential upgrades in the future. So if you want to get a monitor or for mounting different things all over the camera, you could get a camera handle, you could get this, that, whatever. It's nice and easy with a camera cage. Something which I feel like isn't talked about enough is professionalism. If you're doing real estate photography, these realtors don't really know too much about cameras, but if you come in with something that looks like this rather than this, it looks like a much more professional piece of equipment just because it's so metal-y. That's their first impression. Yes, it's not like for you and I, it's like, hey, you just put a little metal enclosure around your camera with a whole bunch of holes in it. You're not even using them. Yes, but to an outside viewer, this looks like some kind of crazy expensive professional piece of equipment, and they know that you're going to take great photos because you have incredible equipment. In real life, that's not true. You don't need great equipment to take great photos and videos, but a lot of people on the outside do think that. Now, one last upgrade that you can get for that budget option would be a microphone system. This here is a Hollyland system, but you can get pretty much any microphone system. I've had experience using Rode and DJI, but I like how tiny the Hollyland microphones are. You can't even see them. They're so small. They just look like regular lavalier microphones, and it is also the cheapest of the bunch. So it's a win-win. If you get a mic set up like that, you can start offering agent intro and outros to their videos. They can say something like, welcome to my new listing. This is a 3,000 square foot home with 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, that kind of thing. Agents love to do that, and you can charge a little bit of extra to do something like that. So it ends up benefiting both of you. All right, let's take a look at a more intermediate package. So you'll basically be able to handle whatever is thrown at you. You're not gonna have to worry about upgrading for the longest time, if ever. Now the setup that I have here isn't really recommended for that. I think I'm a little bit overkill. I have the Sony a7R5 here, but this lens I will start off with. This is the Tamron 17 to 28 millimeter. I think it is an excellent option for real estate. 17 isn't that wide. It's not as wide as the Canon 10 to 18 millimeter on a Canon DSLR. But what I love is, first of all, it's lightweight because it's made more out of this plastic, but it doesn't feel too cheap, which is nice. You want your setup to be pretty light because you're always moving the camera around, and if you're putting it on a gimbal, you want to balance it pretty well. What I also like about this lens though is it goes from 17, which you can use for all of your wide shots, all the way to 28, which you can create more cinematic type of shots, or if you wanted to do detail shots, you can do that paired with 2.8 as an aperture. It'll let you make everything look a little bit more cinematic and just great to take your photos and videos to the next level. Now for the camera body, I would recommend the Sony a7 III. This has been everyone's go-to option for years. I know the Sony a7 IV has already been released for a long time now. I don't feel like it's that necessary for real estate. If you're doing different things, say you require high megapixel photos, then sure, maybe it's a good idea to go for the a7 IV, but for real estate, you honestly don't need more than like 8 megapixels. The photos that they upload on MLS, on basically their listings, are relatively low quality, much lower than what any camera pretty much nowadays can shoot. So I would just recommend you go for the a7 III. That way you get to see your profits sooner than if you invested all the way for something like an a7 IV. In terms of tripod, I still recommend the exact same Optex tripod. So beyond happy with that, and it supports the weight of even my advanced system here. And for microphones, I recommend the same microphone. The HoloLens are so nice, and I recommend them all the way for the advanced setup as well. You don't need to spend the extra money when these do an amazing job already, and they are smaller than pretty much every other microphone that is out there as a wireless option, at least that I know of. For the gimbal, I would still recommend the DJI Ronin SC2 just because it works. It still supports the weight of the camera. I personally use the DJI Ronin SC2, so you'll be totally fine with that as well. That investment alone made me a ton of money, and you don't need to upgrade for the higher end, more pro versions if it does exactly the same thing and still supports the weight of your camera. So for the intermediate setup, what do I recommend for the drone? I recommend you take a look at the DJI Mini 3 Pro. That's the drone that I use. I'm currently on my second one, waiting for my third. I go through them like Tic Tacs because I use them basically every day, every single listing. But it's an incredible drone, and if you pair it with the RC remote, the remote that has the screen, it's so much nicer than having to plug in your phone and set it all up, that kind of thing. It's just good to go. You don't have to plug anything in. The DJI Mini 3 Pro is also under 249 grams, so you don't have to worry about any of the drone restrictions. Just make sure you don't do anything illegal or put someone in danger. Other than that, you should be good. Okay, so now let's take a look at the advanced setup. Let's pretend I am pointing at a different camera now. This is the setup that I use, but there's a few things that I would change if either I was starting all over again or if I was shooting only real estate. Now for me, I got the Sony a7R V because I shoot not only real estate, but I do a ton of photography, and I also need the high resolution. But for real estate, high resolution is absolutely not important, so I would recommend the Sony a7S III. That camera shoots 12 megapixel photos, but it has incredible dynamic range. It shoots 4K at 120 frames per second, so your smooth gimbal shots can be slowed down to be 4 times slower, which in turn is 4 times smoother than just shooting it at regular speed. For the lens, I would recommend Sony's 16mm G Master. That's just because it is slightly wider angle than this Tamron 17mm. 16 is actually quite a jump from 17, but being a Sony lens, you have better in-body image stabilization, and when it comes to real estate videos, you want them to be stable. Now for the gimbal, this may still be controversial, but I still recommend the DJI Ronin SC2. Yes, there is a better gimbal, but there is no reason that you would need it. The SC2 is already an amazing gimbal, and it does everything that you need. It would just basically be unwise to spend the extra money if there's nothing more that you're getting. You could balance more weight on a higher end gimbal, but with this setup, you're still within the weight limit of the Ronin SC2, so there's no point. For the camera, I would totally invest in a cage as well from SmallRig. I use a SmallRig cage on my a7R V. I absolutely love it. I've used cages from different companies before too. What I like about the SmallRig cage is here on the side, it's kind of shaped to fit your hand. So if you're hand holding something, say you're shooting some extra B-roll without a gimbal, it's extremely comfortable in the hand, and it's not like really cutting into your hand. And for the microphones, I would still recommend the HoloLens just because you can tuck them in the shirts and they're really tiny, you don't see them. But I will also add down in the description the Rode version of this. That's because, yes, they are big squares, but you can plug in an external lavalier microphone, which you can then tape to the person and keep the transmitter in the pocket. In that case, it doesn't really matter how big the microphone is because it's basically already hidden away and technically smaller than having the microphone clipped on you like the HoloLens. Tripod, my tried and true, the Optex Black travel tripod. Even for the advanced option, it's all I use. I have a ton of tripods that I could use for real estate photography, but I always go with the Optex Black because it works, it's light, it supports my camera. Why not? I love that thing. You know what's nice about it too? The fact that it has a ball head means if the ground is uneven and you're shooting an exterior photo, you can just adjust the ball head to make sure that even though the tripod's not level, the camera is still going to be level and take a level photo. Now for the advanced setup, what do I recommend for drones? I recommend the DJI Mini 4 Pro. This is the newer version of the DJI Mini 3 Pro, and it's got slightly better features here and there. Really the reason why I recommend it is because it's better in the wind. I've had my drone get taken by the wind and it was really scary. I was able to recover it, but one of the scariest drone flight moments of my life. And I was right near water too, so the drone was just barely keeping near the shore. It was scary. With the Mini 4 Pro, you get a little bit more confidence, so I would just recommend maybe spend the extra dime, go for the Mini 4 Pro, and you'll be safe. Anyways, that's pretty much it in terms of the equipment that you should buy to start your real estate, photography, and video business. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below, and either I or someone else will be able to help you get started with your real estate photography journey. I wish you the best of luck. You got this. There's a lot of business out there, and there's a lot of agents that need your help. Let me know if you want more videos like this. There's a ton of things that I've learned by starting my business and growing it to where it is now. So if you want to learn more and avoid some of the mistakes that I've encountered, let me know and I will bring that video to you guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed. It helps support my channel a ton, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.